Okay. Awesome. How you doing, Steven?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Full day of the draft. So, just really getting things going and, trying to make sure that we're staying on top of the craziness that is the portal. That's for sure. So,
Yeah.
awesome. Can't say how excited I am to have you on the team. Really, if you wouldn't mind, just maybe, for those who aren't aware, I'm sure most are, just maybe introduce yourself, kind of your background, stuff like that. Really, everyone would love to get to know you.
Yeah, my name's Steven Schock. I played college baseball a little bit back in the day. I started off at Appalachian State and I heard about this thing called the transfer portal. It was just some made up thing back in the day where you say, "Hey, I'm not going to be here next year. I'm going to text a bunch of coaches I used to know and say, hey, you want me now?" Not many did, except the coaches at UMBC. So I joined a bunch of my friends from high school as a UMBC retriever. Go dogs! Had a great time there with all my friends, and we had a lot of fun. A lot of good memories were made. But again, I graduated, and I was like, "Hey, wait a minute! I got a degree now, and I can." There's a new transfer portal. I was like, "Hey, I'm so excited about portals. I want to see what this new one's all about." So in October of 20 some year 2018, I believe it was like when the transfer portal had just first came out, to the point where it was like, okay, you give a letter to your school and say, hey, look, I don't want to be here next year, or whatever your case may be. I essentially wrote down, it was a back of a McDonald's receipt, because they said it could be any piece of paper. I'm an eco-friendly guy. I have McDonald's receipts in my car, not regular loose leaf paper, because all my loose leaf was for college notes, because I was really hitting the books. And so I turned that in, because I remember they were like, it can be anything. And I was like, well, let's see if it can really be anything. I put my name on a McDonald's receipt and said, Steven Schock from the baseball team here is probably going to graduate if things go well. They kind of went all right. I ended up graduating. That's what's important. And I found my new home at the University of Virginia. But the second time I did it was via the actual transfer portal, where I put my name in. I believe there were like restrictions my coaches at UMBC could put in, of like who couldn't contact me. So it was
Interesting.
very interesting to learn about the process that way, but to learn that the transfer portal can be a very good thing and can help you get to your dream school. And so, in that vein, I end up at Virginia. First year there, we have COVID, so that kind of shuts things down. I play my second year there, and that's kind of when things started turning in my life for the weirder, as if it couldn't already be weird enough. I was a door dashing submarine pitcher who was closing out baseball games while getting a degree in higher education, thinking I was going to be a PE teacher. I still think I might do that one day, just because it seems lit. But also at the same time, I started covering college baseball, because I had an interview where I talked about caves, Dippin' Dots, and pretty much everything
Oh
but
yeah.
baseball. In the situation, I was probably supposed to talk about baseball. And here we are. Now it's time to just kind of, the spotlight was shown on me. And ever since then, I've just kind of been trying to put it back on the players.
Yeah, that was quite. There was either like that was either the ACC tournament or a regional, because I remember you talking about per diem and saying like
Mm-hmm.
some heckler was basically saying like he was offering you Dippin' Dots if you like threw the game. You were
Exactly.
contemplating like you're like, and Dippin' Dots are crazy expensive. I remember that so vividly. That was it. Just hearing the announcers chuckling along with it, man. That was such a unique experience. So again, really excited to have you on. And frankly, I think you bring kind of exactly what we're looking for. Someone who has that experience with the portal, someone who has experience with the teams, and frankly, someone who just loves the game. Because we're trying to grow the game, and really we'd like to bring out people who love it. So our first kind of like portion here, and I know we've talked a little bit about this, is we kind of wanted to go over the draft, kind of that like, it's fallouts, maybe a bad word, maybe a good way to put it is just like how the cookie crumbled, really kind of that roster turnover. And it was insane this year. So they went from 40 down to 20. Well, they basically went 40 to 5, then 5 to 20. And it's been 20 now for 5 years. But this is the first time it's been just a 2-day draft. And it feels like it was a beyond a whirlwind. I was texting some buddies today, and I basically said about round 15, my brain was just mush. Like I couldn't like watch this like ticker anymore. Couldn't listen to anyone tell me about like what degree this person did. Like it just got to the point of it was just almost overwhelming. But kind of trying to take a step back a little bit. Who do you think benefited the most from how the draft shook out? Like where I mean, there are definitely some programs that came out of the draft in better shape, but maybe a few, sighs of relief from coaching staffs. Kind of, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so one that immediately just jumps off the page to me is Tennessee. I mean, we talk about them all the time when it comes to college baseball, but that's because they keep doing impressive things in college baseball. But to have guys like Henry Ford and Evan Blanco coming to campus, when I first saw them leaving Virginia, I was super pumped because I wasn't pumped because I'm like, hey, I love Virginia, but I was pumped for them because it's always exciting to watch guys you like play in different yards. And so to really just see Henry Ford hit home runs at Lindsey Nelson next stadium. That's going to be insane. How someone hits 348 in the ACC with 22 doubles and 28 home runs over the course of their first two collegiate years doesn't really make sense to me. But the fact that he's going to continue doing it at the college level is going to be really fun. And then you have Evan Blanco, who over his 3 years at UVA had a 4.17 ERA. Essentially, anytime you saw UVA winning a big game in the past 3 years, it's because Evan Blanco was on the mound at some point during that game. And now he's going to be doing that for the Vols, which I couldn't be more excited about. And then looking at their high school guys, like they have Ethan Moore. He's the switch hitting shortstop. He's like the number 35 shortstop in the whole MLB draft class,
He
which,
was the only high school shortstop to not be taken. It felt like he was like the only one.
and it's like, okay, so he's going to go play at college. This is the fascinating thing with the world of college baseball these days. He's probably going to make a good amount of money playing college baseball. And then he's going to go make a ton of money in the draft when he's, draft eligible in college. So it's something that is really exciting. I think Tennessee baseball is someone you're going to want to earmark just for the coming couple of years. There's one guy, he's an incoming freshman. He's a catcher, Trent. My brain cannot mentally. This is not just a fact that I'm stupid thing. This is a fact that I'm stupid and dyslexic.
Grinlinger.
Griglender. Can you say it one more?
Grinlinger. Grinlinger.
Yeah, that
I, I
one.
I'm probably mispronouncing that as well. Like let's be frank. Like these are proper nouns. Like anyone could name the D could be silent for all we know. But
Yeah,
phonetically,
exactly.
that's how it looks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so like until I have a clip of him hitting a home run at Tennessee and their announcer screaming his name at me, it's going to take a while for my brain to process that
Yeah.
one because I was not
Yeah.
hooked on phonics. I was afraid of addiction as a child, so I didn't want to get hooked. But then Cameron Appenzeller is literally why is he in college? I don't know.
No
Why was he
idea.
pitching in high school? That's not fair. If I were 14 and I faced that kid, I would poop myself as hard as if I were, I don't know, 18 facing him when he's 21 in 3 years. He's just going to be an insane talent. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch develop over the next 3 years as well.
Yeah. No, I think you nailed the one I had the most. I mean, they got hit pretty hard from a portal perspective. Like they
Mm-hmm.
lost Estrada. They lost the I'm trying to think DJ Newman,
Yeah, they lost
and then
Lloyd.
Edmondson. So they lost three portal guys, but frankly, like you look at a roster and you say kind of like who are those 14 to 18 that are going to be in your game plan on like those weekend games. And as you said, like they brought back for Blanco, Hendy from Duke. They got the three freshmen. And then they had Arvinson, who said he was coming back, and Chapman and Bargo weren't picked. And then you throw in another freshman last year, Tegan Coons, who's basically Appenzeller round two now. So, I mean, they're going to have a ridiculous. And they've Clark. Clark is also going crazy right now in the Cape. I think I've seen he's been one of the top players in the Cape following your Twitter handle there. So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if you look at that 14 to 18, like I know one of our later questions is going to be who do we see as potentially number one. It's pretty wild to think that a team that lost 8 players in the first 3 rounds, like I see them just being incredibly talented kind of in that 1 through 18, that you're basically saying, hey, who are going to be our 10 to 11 guys that will hit, maybe platoon, two or so guys, and then who are going to be our like 7 to 8 pitchers that we basically try to lean on all 3 weekend games. I feel like really though they have a very, very talented team.
Definitely.
Um, what about LSU? Or no, I'm sorry, not LSU. What about Georgia? So we talked a little bit about Georgia. This is one that for me kind of stood out. And did they stand out whatsoever for you? Do you have any notes on them? If not, I've got some notes on them.
So the thing I'm most excited about with Georgia is the fact that Matt Scott's going to probably make it to campus unless he signs like a undrafted free agent deal, which, back in my day, the largest undrafted free agent deal happened to one of my former teammates. His name was Joe Nahas. He signed for $250,000 with the Cubs out of Georgia Southern. He was a fellow UMBC dog who transferred different places. But that's no longer the case. There's a lot more money, I feel like, in the undrafted free agent market to where like it's going to be worth a lot more. So, that's always something to keep an eye on. But Matt Scott, I mean, stop me if you've heard this before, but Wes Johnson signing a 6-foot gigantic dude throwing 98 from the right side out of the portal. Does that work out well? Let's hope he doesn't go to the Pirates. But yes, it does.
It's pretty crazy because we rank the top 250 portal players on the site, and they got 15 of them right now, I think. And I think, I mean, looking at those 15, the vast majority were probably like 2/3 were probably in that potentially draft eligible. Like, will they be going? And I think they lost just one. I think they just lost Alabama State's Juan Cruz. So again, I think they're going to be a really case study in portal recruiting moving forward because they've got maybe like 6 freshmen coming in. They kept Phelps. Phelps is coming back. He
Mhm.
said right before the draft he was going to be coming back. But the fact that they have so many portal players, it's going to be the vast majority of their roster is going to be guys who just showed up playing at different locations. I think people are going to look back on this 26 Georgia team as almost, in my opinion, is kind of like a jump off point. Like, hey, do we try to replicate what they're doing and just reduce our high school classes? Do we go all in on the portal, or do we basically say this just doesn't work because we saw a team go all in and maybe it didn't work? So I'm real interested to see what happens to them. Any others for you that stood out?
Another one that really stood out was Mississippi State. Like, I'm
Yeah.
just interested. I won't call them a loser because, no one's losers, and I love my friend Brian. But they did have, everyone who's essentially thrown a baseball for Mississippi State signed in the draft this year. So I'm kidding, of course, but it was Pico Cohn, Evan Sierra, and Carson Ligon. It's going to be hard to replace those innings. But I feel confident, Coach O'Connor, the way he works and the way he operates, he grabs good pitchers out of the portal. He's got a long track record doing that. So I believe in him. I believe that he's going to be good. But to get Jack Bauer to campus, a guy throwing 103 miles an hour in high school, the hardest ever pitch thrown by a left-handed pitcher in high school, thank goodness I was right-handed. That's the
Yeah.
only reason. Not the fact that he threw a clean 16 miles an hour faster than I ever could throw. So, that's just something to keep an eye on. He was the number, I believe, 44 prospect for the draft by MLB.com. And, when you have that kind of situation going on, making it to a college campus to see my friend Brian, I get pretty excited about that.
Yeah. They had a few that Davian Hickson,
Yeah,
who's the
Hickson from
Rice
Rice.
pitcher. Yeah, he was one of their top portal, but they got Teal, one of
Mhm.
your fellow Who's,
Yeah.
that again was on everyone's portal, was on everyone's draft board. They got him to come to campus. I think they're still going to be in that top two, maybe top three ish team ranking. I mean, 99% of guys sign in that first 10
Mhm.
rounds. So I mean, frankly, like they're probably going to lose Hickson. Like they just, it's
It
going to
happens.
happen. Yeah,
It
it
happens.
happens.
But to have a center fielder with probably more saves than any other center fielder in the nation, because he used to be a closing pitcher, getting 6 saves, like he's one of the most impressive raw talents I feel like in college baseball. And that's not because he isn't refined as a ball player. It's because like the raw skills are that good that it's going to take a lot of refinement to get it down. Like watching his brother play, like the baseball instincts in that household, it's undeniable. And like a Teal not having an incredible season to end out the college career, that's just not an option. I feel
Yeah,
like so.
yeah,
I mean, I know he's got a couple more years of eligibility, but at the same time, like this is a kid you're going to want to earmark every time he's playing because something incredible probably is going to happen. Like his freshman or his sophomore season, I believe it was, he had 10 at bats, 4 hits, 3 of them being absolute mammoth tanks that came pretty close to hitting my house in Charlottesville. So it's like, look, this is someone to be excited about. He's going to be a lot of fun to watch down in Starkville.
no, that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, they get Ace Reese back, which everyone and their dog was talking about right around July 1st to see if he was going to go into the portal. I didn't see Noah Sullivan's name get picked,
Mm-hmm.
so I think he potentially has another year. So that would be. I mean, honestly, it's really hard to tell with eligibility anymore in the NCAA. It feels like
It's all
every other
made up.
year, yeah, someone comes with a seventh year, and you're like, "How did this happen?" And I have no idea. I feel like that, yeah. So maybe they get Sullivan back. Honestly, not 100% sure, but I feel like we've got a pretty good feel for it. Another team that I kind of wanted to talk about, honestly, was LSU. As you said, like they're not really like a loser in this situation because clearly they just won the national championship. But I feel like they got hit pretty hard today. Frey was a name that some people were talking about, potentially coming back. They lost a few bullpen arms like Meyer and Wood and a few others that maybe like, hey, could they have come back and been maybe that Saturday right-handed pitcher out of the bullpen? Maybe that's some potential Sunday starter, things like that. And on top of that, they had 8 kids, 8 high school guys selected in the top, and 7 of them were in the top 10 rounds. Yeah, 7. And I think that eighth one was in the 11th. So I mean, just like from a math perspective, you kind of anticipate to lose 7, if not all 8 of them. I mean, again, LSU is going to be fine in 26, but a lot of moving pieces today for the Tigers, and perhaps a guy that we've heard a lot about over the past 2 weeks, Volchko, that we know that LSU is really uh, in the era of. Perhaps maybe they're able to make a larger push for him, or maybe they could even make a better NIL offer for Hamilton coming out of the 11th round. I don't know. What are you, as someone who is really following the Cape Cod, are you hearing anything about Volchko? Because I know there's a lot of noise going on right now with him.
Honestly, with Volchko, all I know is whatever team ends up signing him is going to be the luckiest team in college baseball because he has some of the most legit stuff. I remember watching him with Team USA, not this summer, but the summer before, I believe it was. And like when he was on the mound, there was not a single person who wasn't absolutely locked in. He was throwing against the Chinese Taipei team. And like their fans were like filming videos so they could show their friends back home, like, hey, look at this freak in a great way. Don't get me wrong. But like his slider, it was taking a sharp left turn. I don't know how he did that. And then his fastball was just the easiest 95 I've ever seen. And like there's some pitchers where they throw 95 and it's like, okay, he put all his effort into that and makes sense. And there's other pitchers where like when they throw 95, there's the big leg kick. It looks smooth. It just looks freaking cool. Like Alec Manoa in college, I know he's since fallen a little bit differently, but in college at West Virginia, if you watch his highlights, he was the coolest dude to ever play baseball. He had like full arm sleeves, just like swag to the max. Joey Volchko and the way he pitches, it's the same amount of swagger and like that moxie that comes with it that really can make you a good pitcher. Just like, there's a reason in MLB the show the confidence meter actually matters because confidence matters as a pitcher. And so, he's one of those guys where no matter where he ends up next season, because I truly do not know where he'll pick, because I would assume he can pick essentially, hey, what school do I want to go make $1 million at next year? Seems pretty simple. Um, so whatever school he's going to end up at is going to have one of the best staffs in the nation built around him, in my mind.
For sure. For sure. I know there are a lot of entities that like try to guess and pick. That's just really never really going to be us to where we're going to say like, oh, my money's on this or not. It's just let the kids do their thing, let them, go be great, and no reason for us to try to spoil anything or like play Miss Cleo picking out a tarot card on whatever position or whatever team they're going to be going to. So he's going to go somewhere great, as you said. I mean, there are a lot of outlets that have him as a potential first round pick next year.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting year for him because it didn't really seem to come together completely for him. But again, like, when it does, when it clicks, it's going to be a lookout kind of thing. All right. Second kind of segment, I guess we could call it, is just from like a portal surprises and maybe like undrafted talent. Every year the portal gives us something unexpected, and this offseason kind of feels to be no different. Um, some names, landed in some unique places, which is frankly something I love to see as someone who looks at 6,000 players every year and is basically adds commitments for 950 teams. It's lovely to see really some great talent go to some really good schools. I was wondering if maybe you saw like maybe just some teams kind of make some picks out of the portal or some commitments that you were kind of excited to see. Not maybe those traditional SEC powerhouses, but someone that's really going to a good school.
Yeah, so honestly, one that I'm super stoked about is Gabe Nard going from Duke to Florida State. I do think it's a little bit interesting that, Corey Muscara's coming in. If I'm a pitcher, I'm like thanking baby Jesus because I would probably be trying to transfer to whatever school he's the pitching coach at. So it's interesting for me that he's going to Florida State when you got Coach Moose coming in, but I totally get it. Hey, look, you spent a long time in Durham, new coach coming in. You have the opportunity to go Florida. Totally understand. Very warm down here. There was like a hurricane today, kind of for like 30 minutes, but that passed. I'm still here. My roof's still attached. So he's another dude that, again, I'm really excited to watch. Another guy that I think I'm really interested to see where he shakes out. I know you said no SEC guys, and he isn't yet, but
You can. I'm just spitting. You can say whatever you like.
No, that's complete guess. But Zach York, he isn't committed anywhere yet.
Yeah, Grand Canyon guy.
But he's one of those guys where like he has truly the best plate discipline in college baseball, in my opinion. Like this dude's not striking out and he's not swinging at balls. He has, in his 3 years, he holds the record, I believe, for the most career walks at Grand Canyon University with 122. He has 157 RBIs and 32 home runs for them. But again, like one of the biggest players we saw benefit from transferring to the SEC was Sonny DeChara. And I remember when I spoke with him, I hate that I'm pulling this comp up right now, and it's nothing about weight, I promise you. But he had the best plate discipline in the universe, in my mind. And he struck out a good amount at Samford on balls that weren't strikes, just umpires don't know the strike zone. He has SEC umpires for a year. He's the best hitter in college baseball. Makes sense. Zach York, I watched him on the Cape and Hyannis. He got rung up by one of the umpires on a pitch that probably bounced. But what you got to remember about the Cape Cod League is half these umpires, like we had an umpire who was a barber when he wasn't umpiring baseball games. Like this is a hobby and it's sick. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. But, when you have umpires who, they aren't forcing you to swing at pitches you don't want to swing at, that's something that's very beneficial. So Zach York, he's a guy you're going to want to keep your eye on because he's keeping his eye on the ball for sure. And then another thing that excited me was the fact that the Duke Blue Devils are just the Charlottesville Blue Devils now. We got AJ Grassi at UVA. Very, very exciting time to be a Virginia fan. Coach Pollard, I always tell people he's a dude I would have loved to play for if I didn't play for Coach Oak. Like when I committed to App State, it was 2 years after Coach Pollard left App State. So I don't even know if he knows this or if anyone knows this, but I really liked App State because Coach Pollard, even though he wasn't there, he just made it.
Boone is a beautiful place.
Exactly. And I was like,
did you ever visit? Did you visit Boone?
Yeah, so I went
Oh
there
my
for a
gosh.
whole year, man.
Oh, you went there. I didn't
It
notice that.
was a
Okay.
fascinating experience down at App State.
Huh. Yeah.
That was it was a cool time, but I remember like I never played for Coach Pollard. We had Billy
Mm,
Jones. But when I
mm.
Googled App State, this was before social media was a big thing. The only video was like a vlog one of their pitchers did in the 2020 or 2012 season. Holy crap. Why would I say 2020? I was not playing. I'm washed. Um, but I remember this video was just this relief pitcher. He had a sick goatee. He was just following everyone around and like he was messing with Coach Pollard. I was like, that dude seems cool. Like, sign me up for this place.
Yeah. Yeah, we mentioned probably two of, I'm pretty biased sometimes when it comes to these schools because you have relationships with coaches and some of them like talk to you more than others, and it's Sikowski going from Duke to Virginia. I mean, those are just incredible individuals. So I mean, really, like I know Oak went from Virginia to Mississippi State, and that's a big change. It's a big loss, but I really feel like what was put in place in Virginia, they're going to be able to succeed. What he was able to do at Duke, which frankly, there are a few schools. It's a little bit difficult sometimes from the portal because they can't get those sophomores or juniors because of ultimately they can't, the transcript issues. Those are just difficult schools. If he's able to recruit even more now at a school like, again, Virginia is a very good school, but it's not one of the ones that can't bring in like a sophomore with 45 hours, something like that. Whereas other schools like Vanderbilt is not able to do that, or others. Really, like I think they'll be able to take off. So, really, really excited to see what happens with Virginia, and I think they're like number 8 or number 9 or right now in our team rankings, and again, they didn't really lose anyone. That at
Mhm.
least that from what I could tell from the draft. Again, with I don't know what was it, 200 plus draft picks today. It's just kind of like I'm
Yeah.
just gonna
Yeah.
guess.
What
I
happened?
just guess that
I
they
know
they're
Marcus
oh,
Stroman's brother's still going to be a who, you know,
mm,
just following the great line of smart, handsome people who play baseball at Virginia. Another guy I'm excited about is Michael New going from Marshall to Arkansas. His every time I'm trying to come up with the Cape Cod player of the day for Cod ball, I have to contemplate whether or not I should just give it to Micah New again because every time I feel like he's just doing something impressive. Over the summer, he's currently hitting 345 on the Cape with 2 doubles and 7 home runs, which last season, I believe it was Ryder Helfrich hit 12 home runs, and everybody was acting like the world was going to burn down because double digit home runs on Cape Cod, they don't happen often. You have to really
yeah,
get into the ball, especially over summer ball. You're facing the best pitchers in the nation. It's not easily done. He's coming from Marshall, and so a lot of people will be like, oh, well, it's harder to hit in the SEC. Pitching's more difficult. Look at how he's doing in summer ball with a wood bat, and then just shut up. Just shut
yeah,
because he's killing it. So I'm super pumped to see how he does this season. And then another guy is Tyler Cerny from Indiana going to Kentucky.
yeah,
That's an
yeah, yeah,
exciting
yeah.
one, really, because in the first 3 years of his collegiate career, he's attempted 28 stolen bases. He's been successful on 22 of them. Very good number. I think Coach Mangione in 1 year will have him doing at least 28 stolen base attempts.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm excited to see how successful he is this year compared to the first three of his career.
Yeah, New was an interesting one because he wasn't on any draft boards whatsoever. Like it's not that he came out of nowhere. He was putting up 115 plus exit velos at Marshall. If you were in the weeds like some of us are with some of the data on other schools, you knew that he had talent, but he also had some like swing and miss. I think he hit like 270 or something at Marshall. So I mean, it wasn't like he just jumped off the page. But then when he got to the Cape, and I don't know if it's not even got to the Cape. I think like May forward, he's hit like 30 something home runs in like 30 games. It's pretty stupid. I think he's hit like 7 and 20 in the Cape, and I think he hit like 11 and 17. So maybe it wasn't 30 and 30, but it was an absurd rate at what he's doing at. So it feels like something's clicked. Interesting to see what position he plays. He's playing in center in the Cape, isn't he?
I believe
Yeah,
so. Kind of.
yeah,
Summer ball is hard to tell because they never put out who's playing where. Just tweet a
yeah,
picture of the lineup, please. Please save me 30 minutes every day. It'll help.
uh,
But but especially with summer ball, because you got coaches who are like, hey, look,
yeah.
we're going to Wareham because I like the coach there. Also, he's going to try to make you a catcher this summer. We had a guy, his name was Brady North from the University of Florida. He was a third baseman. Coach Sullivan had sent him up to Katuitt to become a catcher and learn how to catch. His first catching experience was Joe Boyle from Notre Dame, an 18-year-old, a Ferrari without a steering wheel, in the sense that he threw 103 miles an hour. He did not necessarily know where it was going at that point. He knows where it's going now. He's doing very well for himself. He doesn't have to talk to a computer for money. He throws baseballs for money. So he's doing well. But Brady North's first catching experience was catching him, and he hung the glove up very quickly after that.
Oh man,
So you get a lot of kids playing a lot of weird positions. You get to learn a lot too. So with him, I feel like he's just got an insane amount of athleticism, and essentially Arkansas is one of those teams where they'll just put him where they need to put him so he can hit.
yeah, yeah. Kane's Cats agrees with you that the Cape does need to release rosters every day. Yeah, you know, I think Arkansas is a unique one because they have a Lloyd. I know they want him to like see if they can work in right field, and New is like maybe they play him at center because I think he struggled at short at Marshall. I think he had quite a few errors. So I mean, frankly, like he's so athletic, and he's got some speed too. I mean, the outfield may be better suited for him anyway. So really, I think that does make quite a bit of sense. Couple of guys that I liked the ones you picked. Some that I kind of wanted to talk about. Ty Daly. So he's coming from I think Mercer. He's going to Clemson. He was one of those that I remember when he went in the portal. He was one of those June 2nd entrants. Everyone was like, "Oh, he's going pro. He's going pro." Like, it doesn't matter who gets him. He's going to go pro. And I know that Clemson had Weideman go in the first 10 rounds out of Western Kentucky. So he's undoubtedly gone. But I think you have to be excited that Daly's, or, again, however you pronounce it, he's coming back. So he was one guy that I was really excited to see. Then, I mean, frankly, what Tulane has done in the portal this year is kind of crazy, in my opinion. I mean, Tulane has had a good baseball program for a very long time. But to see them, I mean, they are, I think, 16th right now in the team rankings. Like they've put together an elite portal class. One that a lot of people don't really talk about is Jack Frinkle, the freshman pitcher. I was trying to remember what college he's coming from. Honestly, apologies, my brain sometimes goes a little mush, but he's a guy that I think you'll see go to Tulane and really put up some impressive innings pitch pretty right away, pretty immediate for that school. So I love the portal because it's this massive game of musical chairs in which you have basically 6,000 people enter for what feels like 4,000 chairs, and it's rough because you do see all the individuals that will go through JUCO or NAIA, but then you see a year later that a lot of those guys going from JUCO will sign with a program or they'll get drafted. It just feels like trying to find the best place for you. So I don't know. It seems like the portal worked out for you as well, and I enjoy it to no end.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
Let's yeah yeah. All right, let's transition to maybe who didn't get drafted that you thought would from the portal. So there's always a few guys that you pencil in as maybe those potential 10 to 20 round picks when you're just talking about Daly, who end up back on campus. Big boost for programs. I'm sure there's one on that we're both thinking of, but what's the one that jumps out for you?
Honestly, there's so many different players and teams that jump out. Like, all I can really think about is the fact that Duke University is going to be playing in Charlottesville again. Like, my brain is so stuck on the fact that AJ Gracia is going to be hitting home runs in Charlottesville. Like, that is something that's so exciting to me. Like, at first I was very upset because, all I can think about is the fact that Brian O'Connor is no longer at Virginia. That really, that news hit me hard. this baseball offseason.
I can
But
imagine.
knowing that Coach Pollard's there, that's just such a comfort to me. Again, it's just one of those things where so much has happened so fast that I don't even know what I don't know. I'm still waiting over the next 2 days for the dust to settle with undrafted free agents who actually signs, because I'm sure there'll be like at least one or two players who got drafted who are like, no, I can totally make more money than that. I'm going back to school. And we won't see that coming. And I'm excited for
Mm,
that. I think
yeah,
that's the most
yeah,
exciting part about this weird, wonky, like month and a half of, okay, am I going to go to another school? Is the MLB going to pay me, or am I going to come back? I think it's a very
yeah,
weird process, but hey, at least it gives us something to do during the summer when typically, we just had to wait for random reports about how things were going in summer ball. Now we have access. Of course, some summer ball games are streamed, which is sick. I know the Cape Cod League is free on Cape Cod TV. You should always check that out because free baseball is sick. We always talk about it. When you get one extra inning, it's like, oh, free baseball, sick. How about like a million extra free innings all summer long? I'm not paid by them. I just like the league, so you
oh
should
yeah,
check
oh
me
no, 100%, 100%.
out.
I mean, literally, as we were talking, one guy looks to be coming back, Zach Cowan. So relief pitcher for LSU. He just kind of said he's coming back. Feels like all of the chips are starting to fall in terms of the free agent deals. Like Jackson Wells, he was a big portal pickup for Arkansas. He just signed with the Stros. Tippy, he was signed with Alabama. Now he's actually going to be going. Where is he at? He's out with the Yankees. So I mean, there's a lot of moving pieces. It almost feels like we're not doing it justice for like how much time is still left to go to say like, oh look, these guys are coming back, because it again, you can't really like sit there and say like we've got our full roster now. It feels like things change in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I feel like Mike Anu is in one of those situations where it's like this kid's earned himself a ton of money. So if he signs and doesn't make it to Arkansas, like he's the guy I'm bookmarked, like pumped to watch. Like I want to see this kid play in the SEC, but at the same time, like my brain's like, look, if I am a team, I'm stupid for not signing him in the draft. I would be stupider not to take this chance. So again, like names like that, it's really hard to tell where their heads at because again, they don't have the experience in going to those big schools. They don't know what it's like to be like, the big man on campus on a team where like everybody is a fan. Like that's something kids will weigh into these decisions. Like it really is. And it's really different playing at a big school opposed to,
Yeah,
something like Marshall, where don't get me wrong, Marshall's sick. Love Coach Sandifer, love their facilities, brand new field. Who wouldn't want to play there right now? I would.
yeah,
They have great
yeah.
jerseys as well. So, a lot to love there, but at the same time, it's like there's a lot to like about playing in Arkansas.
Oh, yeah, I and again, like it's hard to speak on like what is and what like isn't, but it's when you look at that outfield, they lost Thomas in round 11, so he was their starting center fielder. But then you look at what they've got in the portal, and they got Ruiz, who's coming from Lamar, and Thomas, who's coming from Missouri State, new, and then they got their biggest bat coming from high school, Schaefer. And I think everyone thought he was going to be gone. And then Brumbaugh. I mean, it's one of those weird things where like these coaches sometimes they have to recruit five to get one, and then if you recruit those five and like two show up, you almost have to say like what do we do? So
Yeah.
I again, it's that's what fall ball's for. That's what fall ball's for.
Yeah, and I feel like we'll see a lot of movement over these next couple of days as coaches like, say, I'm Tony V. I just committed, X amount of dollars to someone in the draft. They didn't go. Now I got to
Yeah.
pay that person. So it'll, but the opposite is true as well of like, okay, well, this big time commit, I promised 4 million, not these are completely made up fake numbers. Internet, don't run
Yeah.
with this. But say someone's making $4 million and it's like, oh, well, they got drafted. I don't have to pay them. I have $4 million I can allocate elsewhere. So,
Yep.
I'm just excited to really see things pick up. And God, I can't wait for September when school starts and everybody's at school, at the school they're going to play baseball at this year. And then, of course, December will come and everyone will be like, I might play baseball somewhere else. Ooh, who's going to play baseball
Yeah,
somewhere else? And
yeah,
then we'll find out.
yeah. The weird thing is we're in that odd new period of the oh, what is it? It's a DSA. It's like designated student athlete, where they have the ability to enter the portal, which honestly I think is good. The more I think about it, I think it is good because of what we just talked about. Like now you have, if you have 2 for 5, as a school, you can kind of do the right thing and say, hey, I'm going to make you a DSA, and you could maybe enter the portal here over the next couple of weeks and try to find a new home. Whereas a lot of these guys, as you said, like December, they was rolling around and they either had to, if they weren't a grad transfer, they had to go from a D1 to a D2, or they would effectively have to drop division, which, it's just with the way the calendar kind of works out for baseball, it really feels like it makes it difficult on both the player and the coach. So hopefully maybe this will have a little bit of a positive. We were talking about, who didn't get drafted. I feel like the three that we've already talked about with Ford, Scott, and
Mhm.
Teal. So there's no real
Yeah.
reason for me to talk about those because I feel like those were kind of the easy, low hanging fruit. So no reason to keep going. So as we look ahead to 2026, who's your number one team heading into the next season? There's a lot of movement, as we just talked about, when it comes to number one. And honestly, like maybe just like a couple, just like who do you think is kind of in that, at least that discussion?
Yeah. So, I mean, Tennessee is always going to be in it. I feel like over the next 5 years or future of college baseball, you could essentially just say any team from the SEC, even I'm willing to even believe Missouri could come from the woodworks because stranger things have happened in college sports.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
from a more serious standpoint, I do think Virginia is in such good shape. Like, obviously, I'm a Virginia fan, but Coach Pollard bringing in the amount of talent he brought in, and essentially the fact that none of the high school kids got drafted when all of the high school kids had the talent to be drafted high school kids. That's something, when you see your program doing that, essentially, if I'm a fan and I'm like, man, none of my prospects got signed, before I get excited, I'm going to be like, is that because my prospects aren't that good? Or am I going to be, holy smokes, like, I can't believe that these kids are going to go to college. Like, what fools for coming to college because they are way too good for this. And it's going to be amazing to watch them compete. So, I think Virginia falls on that more so side of, are you kidding me? Like, what are these kids going to be doing in college? It's going to be a boring 3 years for them with the amount of
yeah.
talent they have. So, again, I really like where Virginia's heading. I like where they were in the past. Um, of course, in that same vein, I could see Mississippi State being very good because my friend Brian is down there, and I do love Brian
Yeah.
O'Connor and all of my
Yeah.
friends from Virginia who now call Starkville home. So again, I'm very biased. I can't really give you a good answer on who's number one right now because who is on what
No one
team,
could.
I don't
No
know.
one could.
I don't know where
No one could.
anyone's playing because
As soon as I typed it up, like the question, I was like, that feels like a dumb question. But it
it's
does
not a
feel
dumb
like it at
question.
least would like have some like conversation that would come from it.
Exactly. Questions are only
Yeah.
dumb if you don't answer them. I don't know
Exactly.
if anyone said that, but at the same time, like again, it's one of those things where it's just so up in the air at this point, where like
Yeah.
it's so wide open. Because again, until I know who's on what team, like the Cape Cod League rosters are all essentially going to reset tomorrow, and that's something I'm thinking about. Slamming my toe into the coffee table, thinking about. So
So much movement in the Cape. Like it blows my mind. One of our director of R&D for baseball, Cole Vellis. Hey, you probably know Cole. So he's
yeah.
one of the GMs for Hyannis Harbor Hawks, and I I cannot believe the amount of like basically just conversations of, hey, would you think about playing? Or coaches saying, hey, my guy pitched 10 innings, he's good, he's done, he's leaving. Like Vahivo Aloy last year went bananas for like 5 games, and then they were like, "All right, you're done. You played well enough. Like, come back here and just lift some weights." Like, it's got to be so hard on like those families that host those players, those coaches that have to kind of like bring in new guys. I mean, just everyone involved with those programs. I feel like it's got to be a little bit of a drain on.
Yeah, I mean, when I was up there, I know over the course of the season, I played with 72 different baseball players.
That's
So,
insane.
granted, anytime I run into someone and they're like, "Do you remember when we played together?" A lot of the time I say, "Yeah, in Katuitt," because though I only played there for 1 year and 1 week of two separate summers,
Yeah.
so many different guys filtered through that year. Like, I ran into a guy at work the other day who was like, "Yeah, I interned at Katuitt," and like we were up there at the same time. We never even met each other because so many people filtered through. And I was like, "Yeah, you shouldn't waste time getting to know the players because a new one's coming as soon as you know that one."
That's crazy. I it's interesting because you look at some of the stats from guys at the beginning of the year. There was one that kind of sticks out, and I don't want to point it out because he didn't do well this year. But there was one guy at the beginning of last year who was just tearing it up, and he committed to a school out of the portal, and it looked like a great commitment. And then he started to struggle in the Cape, and it almost felt like with that oscillation of rosters, it's you almost had like new pitchers coming in who maybe had a little bit more talent or more hitters or whichever, but it really felt like even the stats that were coming out of had different variants depending upon which portion of the Cape you were looking at. Like if you were looking at it right now, you're kind of like, okay, these are the goons or the ones who are putting up the 1,000 OPSs. So
Mhm.
yeah. All right, again, one team we didn't talk about, which I actually think may be probably in that top. Well, not probably they will. It's got to be UCLA.
Mhm.
I mean, we were talking about how those guys who come to campus, you're like, how did they make it to campus? That felt like half of UCLA's 24 recruiting class. And now you've got Rock, who is, probably penciled into 1-1. It's hard to pencil in a 1-1 because I think everyone and their dog would have said Jace was going to be 1-1 this time last year. So that
Mhm.
obviously didn't happen. But when you look at that team and then you add in like Gasparino out of the portal from Texas, and I mean, just the honest fact that they're also playing in the Big Ten, like they should win 20 plus games in that conference. And if they're winning 20 plus games in that conference, and then they do what they should do in the non-con, they should be staring 25 wins like just down the barrel. So I feel like that's a team that you don't want to pencil for a national seed, but it feels like a lot would have to go wrong for them not to get a national seed.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, another one. I don't want to talk too much because I talk is Arkansas.
Mhm.
I think they get a lot back. We already talked about Helfrich, who went crazy in the Cape last year. He's playing for Team USA right now. Gackle and Gibbler are both playing for Team USA, uh, lefty and a righty. They brought in their best high school pitchers. They bring back Vahiva's brother Kihio, and they bring out Cam Kojal, and Souza is probably going to come back from his shoulder injury. We'll really see. Robinette was coming on to the end. I mean, you can kind of go up and down that lineup and say, like, clearly they lost 11 guys to the draft. They lost Grego, who was, by some outlets, an All American shortstop out of the portal. He's undoubtedly going to sign. So, I mean, they lost some pieces, but again, like, as you said, with the Tennessees of the world, with the Arkansas of the world, it's not really sometimes who you lose because you're always going to lose some people. It's who do you have coming back? Do you have enough bullets in there to where when at the end of the day you're like, okay, I'm ready to go for my first weekend of SEC play. So those were the two that I kind of had written down. So I'm kind of glad that we didn't have any kind of overlap there. So now, last question here for you is, who's a team do you think that's flying under the radar?
You did a great job with Tulane because I feel like every season they end up winning their conference. I don't know how they do it, but every year it doesn't matter if they win 30 games, it doesn't matter if they win 14 games going into the tournament. They don't care if they got a chip, they got a chair, they're going to be in the conference tournament and they're going to win the damn thing, which has been one of my favorite things. Of course, replacing Billy Price from the 2023 season is tough to do. He didn't do a ton on the mound, but he was my friend, and that's what's important. And I don't have any friends on Tulane anymore. So if you're at Tulane baseball and you're like, hey, Steve, we should change that, hit me up. We can be friends. I like baseball. Roller coasters are fun. The pond, I like going to ponds and skipping rocks. If you like baseball, you probably like skipping rocks. So again, Tulane baseball, if you want to be friends, I need one. But again, team that always flies under the radar is Tulane. They have a sick facility. I think they're going to be really huge this upcoming season. Another team that I think just, again, I'm still stuck on thinking about UCLA because what really stands out
Yeah.
to me is like at first, Coach Savage did not seem like a portal guy. You know, he seemed like someone
No.
who could see it and go, don't even think about trying to come from me from the portal. And I know that because back when I was trying to go in the transfer portal, my pitching coach at Katuitt was UCLA pitching coach and closing pitcher David Berg from the 2013 College World Series team. And I remember going, Coach Berg, I got a .9 ERA on the Cape. Would UCLA be interested in that? And he was like, no, absolutely. We don't like, they don't do transfers there. And I was like, couldn't get in anyway. So joke's on you, buddy. But yeah, so seeing him like utilizing the transfer portal, it's like, okay, this guy's going to have an absolute monster of a team coming up.
Yeah. Yeah. I think everyone, again, there's so many like voices out there that like when guys go in, it's like, oh, this person's destined there. But it felt like those voices were kind of right with Gasparino. I think as soon as he went in, everyone was like, this guy probably wants to go out west. So it felt like a marriage between those two kind of from the word go. The two, I've got two. I've got TCU. I'm not really sure how under the radar they are. I mean, they had a really good season. They got shafted on hosting. And I'm sure a lot of people will say, no, they didn't. They went, two in barbecue in the regionals, but they just kind of it just didn't go their way in the regionals. They went to they traveled what like 3,000 miles. They had to go to the corner of the country, and then they got unlucky because Oregon State also lost their first game, and then they had to face probably maybe the preseason pitcher of the year in Dax Whitney game two. So I mean, sometimes you just that's just kind of the way things
Not fun.
happen. But their returning freshman class, none of them went to the portal, and it's absolutely ridiculous. They got a couple of guys also coming in from the high school. They feel like kind of what you're talking about, not really portal first, more of like high school first. Like, hey, can we bring these guys in? And then they've probably got the preseason Big 12 pitcher of the year. Why am I forgetting his name? Wichita State pitcher. He transferred in. He was phenomenal this year, up to
Laporte.
100.
Tommy Laporte.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Fun one.
If you ever see me on podcasts, I forget names like no one's business, and everyone always thinks like this guy doesn't. I am
I'm
horrible with
pretty good
names.
at it.
Just get over it. I think TCU is going to be really good, and honestly, kind of in that same realm is maybe Auburn. I know I think they were a year ahead. If I were to really, I know they were what fourth or I think they were fourth national seed. I
Mm-hmm.
think they were a little overranked. I know why they were is because RPI just is what it is. But then you look like their freshman second baseman again, forgetting his name, he's destroying it in the Cape right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they've got a ton of talent from the freshman class. They've got a good portal class coming in. I think they're another team that there for a few years, it felt like they kind of fell off. This year was kind of their comeback. But if I were to say, if I was an investor 2 years ago in Auburn, I feel like I would have said 26 is the year. It's almost like they got there 1 year earlier than expected, but now that almost primes them for a better 26, in my opinion. So those are my two, maybe kind of. I don't even think you could call a number four national seed under the radar,
It's a hot
but
take.
maybe it's just yeah. Maybe it's just like a team that most people would say like, hey, they could potentially be in that conversation. So now that we kind of get into the last segment here, how long are we going? Where are we at? So we're at 55 minutes. We're good, getting close to an hour. So, wanted to shift gears and talk a little bit about what we got cooking at 64 this offseason. So clearly, Steven joined. We're incredibly excited to have him. We're also going to be bringing on more members. Ellie Mortensen, she's going to be bringing in her expertise to assist with the softball side. We've got Bryce Guyan. He's an outfielder for Princeton. He's really been putting up some really awesome stuff with some defensive metrics. Really excited to have him on the group. And we've also got one more that we just need to get the term sheet signed. And once we do that, we'll be able to drop that. We'll also be providing just kind of a get to know the new team members when we've got all four signed up. Next, we've got podcasts with players. And Steven, do you want to maybe talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. So what we'll be doing is we'll be going around anytime I see a player that's a little bit weird, and you can be weird for a number of reasons, whether it's you're genuinely a weirdo like me, or you're weird as in you're really good at baseball. That's a weird thing to do because not the average person is weirdly good at baseball. I want to talk to you and I want to learn more about you and share how interesting you are with the other people of the world because look, if I'm going to learn about you, we might as well share that little bit about you with the rest of the universe. So, again, when we're doing that, it'll just be learning about players, anyone who's doing interesting stuff. I know there's some weird characters out in the universe of college baseball, and some characters, even perchance, a little bit beyond the world of college baseball, who I think are really fun to talk to. So, anytime I can have a conversation with them and I can record it with or without their knowledge, and share it to the universe, I'm gonna. I live in a one party consent state, and this is Florida. We can record. We can. It's allowed. It's allowed on phone
I
calls.
don't think I gave you my consent. Well, I mean, I guess I started the recording, so I guess technically I gave my own consent.
Yeah, we're in
But
your
yeah,
dojo, man. You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's
I'm in
your
Texas, which is also a single state, so I think we're good.
yeah, I don't actually know how the law works, but very excited to talk to a lot of players. If I'm talking to a player and it's for the purpose of, going on the internet, players, you will know beforehand. This is not gotcha journalism. This is, hey, it's Steve. I'm a doofus with a microphone. Let's talk a little bit. So again, couldn't be more excited. Just share stories about college baseball players, and then of course write a little bit too. That way, in case you're like, hey, I don't think this guy knows how to freaking read, I can prove that I can. And even do a little bit more than read, which is also write. The
There you
reading, the
go.
writing. Don't ask about the
Hey,
arithmetic.
hey, I'm impressed, man. I couldn't write without the help of some AI. Eh, I've always been good with numbers. I've always been good with being somewhat charismatic, even though perhaps it doesn't show at times. But when it comes to putting pen to paper, it feels like I am just trying to learn a new language. Like it's the ADD in me, but I like get to halfway through a sentence, I'm like squirrel, and then I like try to come back to the sentence, and people are like, "This is a run on. This doesn't make any sense." Yeah, I don't think I'll Ernest Hemingway that I am not. We'll just say.
Yeah, a lot of my writing, a lot of what I do to, show you guys how the sausage is made is I use voice to text and then I
Oh,
take the
nice.
voice to text and I turn it into English and something that makes sense. And because run on sentences, that's the only language I speak. I don't know what a period is. I don't know what punctuation is. I have no inflection in my voice. So naturally, when writing, we have some editors we send it to and say, hey, make sure people don't think I'm that stupid, but a little, just a little.
No, no. You can tell people have different types of intelligence, and you have the charismatic, knowledgeable intelligence. Yeah, no, I definitely see that shining through, sir. Speaking of improvements coming, we've also got some big enhancements coming to the site. So we've got the podcast, which we are kicking off here, and Steven's really going to be taking it over. We've got a lot of things coming for coaches and really kind of specifically for players. Can't spill, all the details just yet, but it is coming soon. And it's really going to change the way people use 64 Analytics. So really excited about that. And lastly, we're going to be at two conferences this year. We're going to be at the NFCA, which is for softball. It's going to be in Vegas. So we're trying not to go too crazy there because, we do have to be professional. But it is also, we're going to be at the ABCAs in January, which in a not as fun state of Ohio. Not that Ohio isn't fun, just perhaps not as fun as the city of Las Vegas. So if you're attending any of those, swing by, say hello. We're excited to connect, meet some of the new team. We're really going to be trying to show you what we're going to be doing in 26 and kind of what we're about. So any last thoughts for you, sir?
Yeah, so you guys heard that right. If you have any crazy late night plans for an all night, no no risks held back evening of craziness in Ohio, let me know. Vegas, I'm pretty sure that one's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah,
How
yeah,
to have fun out there.
yeah.
But Ohio, I watched the Drew Carey show. Cleveland does rock, from what I understand. But
Oh, wow. Yeah, true.
yeah, I'm old. I'm washed. I know
No, no,
about the
I
Drew Carey
I
show.
think we're approximately the same age. In fact, I think I'm older. I definitely remember Cleveland Rocks. Do not worry. That one, as soon as you said Cleveland Rocks, I started chanting it in my
It's a
head.
good song.
Uh, yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know if
All
it's
right, man.
true,
Well,
but
all
it's a
right.
good song.
Well, fantastic. Well, this wraps it up. It's pretty nice, pretty close to an hour. I feel like we kind of nailed it. Really appreciate you coming on again. Couldn't be more excited for 26. And for those watching or for those kind of seeing the recording of this, just be on the lookout for things to come. Thanks very much.